As an MI soldier, you may have to make a judgment call based on the information you've collected. Convincing your superiors that your intel is correct may not always be the easiest task. In March of 1968, Ed Minnock Jr. not only went above and beyond the call of duty, he went above his superior officer. Fortunately for him, the gamble paid off.
Ed Minnock Jr. was a 19-year-old Army Security Agency private who was part of the 404th Radio Research Detachment, which was attached to the 173rd Airborne Brigade in Vietnam.
Ed Minnock ended up as the NCOIC as a private in charge of 4 or 5 other privates who were doing intercept work near Tuy Hoa.
Their mission is to monitor and collect information from the North Vietnamese radio communications.
The enemy transmitted most of their military communications not in voice, but in manual Morse.
On toward the end of March, Minnock began to see a change in the pattern of the information they were intercepting. Well, Minnock was convinced that something big was about to happen.
After a few days of analyzing the communications, Minnock writes a full report indicating that the North Vietnamese are going to attack the city of Tuy Hoa.
He thought he knew the time of the attack, who was going to attack, and he also knew the routes that they would take.
Since the ASA's mission in Vietnam is top secret, Minnock couldn't tell his superiors in the 173rd how he had gotten his intel.
Here was a private trying to go up the chain of command and tell them all of this information about this North Vietnamese regiment and what they were going to do, and convince them that he knew what he was talking about.
After being unable to convince his immediate superiors about his findings, Minnock decides to go straight to the base commander, who is a colonel that has only been in the country a very short time.
The colonel listened to him. Essentially, all he saw was a private who could not possibly know anything of any value, and gave him a stern lecture on misuse of the chain of command and threw him out of his office.
Left with very few options, Minnock decides to take his information to the commanding officer of an infantry regiment from the Republic of Korea.
The Korean commander listened to his report and immediately saw a young man that had a tremendous grasp of the facts, obviously knew what he was talking about, was very impressed with him. His 3,000-man force was getting ready to leave on a search and destroy mission. He canceled the mission in order to defend against this attack.
Needing more support, Minnock asks the captain of the 173rd Armor Unit if they would be willing to cover the route to the main bridge into Tuy Hoa.
The captain agreed that he would do it, then went to his commander, who happened to be the same colonel that had thrown Minnock out of his office a few days before. The colonel told him absolutely not, he wasn't going to do it. The armored commander, however, put more trust in what Minnock had told him than what the colonel had to say, so he did it anyway, knowing full well that if Minnock was wrong, he was going to be in serious difficulty.
Minnock was a private in Vietnam. There wasn't a lot they could do to him. I mean, I guess they could have prosecuted him and booted him out of the Army, but he didn't have as much to lose as the guys who kind of placed bets with him.
Just as Minnock predicts, and on the day he predicts, the North Vietnamese Army Regiment moves in to take the city of Tuy Hoa.
The Korean unit didn't meet them head on, but began to move parallel to them, and then at the last minute closed in and trapped them. They took no prisoners, and they outnumbered the North Vietnamese 3-1. When the battle was over, about 50 of the 1,000 North Vietnamese survived the initial battle, went running from the field straight into the teeth of the armored unit with their 36 machine guns, and no one survived. The entire 95th North Vietnamese Regiment had been completely annihilated.
It was a great victory. High-ranking officers started coming in, congratulating everybody. And the Republic of Korea officer finally said, "Where's that young captain?" nobody knew who he was talking about. And it finally came out that it was Ed Minnock, and he wasn't an officer.
When they finally investigated why they gave the 404th the credit for their part in it and awarded Minnock a Bronze Star, the Korean colonel was still not satisfied with it. He went to General Allen, told him specifically all that had gone on, and when General Allen concluded his investigation, he rescinded the Bronze Star and recommended Minnock for the Legion of Merit.
Legion of Merit is awarded to foreign officers, high-ranking officers, and very high-ranking officers in the military. But I don't believe at the time it had ever been awarded to a private.
Ed Minnock Jr. was inducted into the Military Intelligence Hall of Fame at Fort Huachuca, Arizona in 1990. He remains an example for all MI soldiers of the impact one soldier can have.
Everyone has a contribution to make, and I don't care what your rank is. You can absolutely make a difference in the military.